All right, everyone, you are in for a treat because I'm so lucky to have a guest speaker that is going to help me talk today about being proactive with our private parts. I'm going to embarrass you right off the off. Um, Thanks for being here. For those of you that don't know Brianne Thiesen-Eaton, she is a very accomplished heptathlete in Canada. Well, formerly from Canada. And she can say that she has not only medaled in the worlds, but also Olympic medals. And so what an accomplishment for you. Her big goal now is to have a baby. She's pregnant, and she's going to talk a little bit today about things that she's gone through or wants to know to be proactive during pregnancy and with her postpartum recovery. So yes. I can't thank you enough for being here because this is so helpful to obviously other athletes, but also women in general.
No problem. I'm happy to be here, and I'm so thankful for your help so far because I've learned a ton, and I think it's going to be really valuable moving forward.
Yeah, it's something that we're starting to hear a lot more about is obviously issues related to pregnancy and the pelvic floor and symptoms that women experience sometimes for the rest of their lives after having babies. And it used to kind of be swept under the carpet. And I think that now women are hearing that it doesn't need to be that way. It's just another injury that our body goes through. And there's no reason we can't recover and get back to some of the activities that we love. And obviously you lead a very active lifestyle and you want to be able to get back to the things that you love. And so again, I appreciate you talking because it'll benefit so many women. And I would love for you just to kind of help talk. I think that what would be helpful is that I wanted women to see kind of from your perspective why it's beneficial to do things proactively. And I thought we'd put together a little 3-part series here. And Brianne's going to help me talk about first what things that women can do during pregnancy to prepare for delivery, what things she's going to do during her labor and delivery to influence her pelvic floor or to have control over her pelvic floor. And then she'll talk a little bit after she has her baby. So she's 35 weeks pregnant now, and she'll talk to us afterwards, and maybe 2 or 3 weeks after she has her baby, and then maybe another 6 or 8 weeks after, to talk about how she's working on recovery. So this is our first little blurb here. And I really wanted you to talk today, Brianne, about like what made you reach out during pregnancy?
So I reached out to Melissa during pregnancy, probably, I must have been about 10 weeks pregnant or so. And there were a few things that prompted me to do that. The first being that I was already experiencing some pelvic floor, symptoms. And this wasn't something that just started when I got pregnant. I had experienced it when I was an athlete. I had never worked with a pelvic floor physical therapist as an athlete, but there were times, when I would be running or doing like a really hard workout, sprinting, and I noticed, and especially in those times when the workout was really hard and it would get really tired, where I couldn't hold in my pee. Like if I had a full bladder, I would full on pee my pants. And even if I just had a little bit in my bladder, I would pee a little bit. And so I always knew as an athlete that, I think maybe my pelvic floor is weak. That's what I always used to think. And people would say, do Kegels, it'll help strengthen it. And knowing how important it was for an athlete, for their posture and their hip flexors and their knee drive and their sprinting, like the pelvic floor was so key. So I would feel like when I would get tired, I would lose my posture, and I felt like it's because my pelvic floor muscles were weak. So once I got pregnant, my mom and aunts and grandma and everybody would always say, oh, say goodbye to jumping on the trampoline. You'll pee when you cough. You'll pee when you sneeze. You'll pee when you do all this stuff. And I just thought to myself, like, that sounds like the worst. I don't want to do that. And I was already freaked out because I was having a little bit of issues when I was an athlete. And I thought, okay, there has to be a way to like not have this happen. Like it's a muscle. There has to be. I've hurt other muscles before, or I've rehabbed other muscles and they've gotten better. So there has to be something. And I'm, was on the team with a lady named Melissa Bishop. She's a Canadian 800-meter runner. And I remember seeing like on her social media, this Mommy Berries program that she was doing because she has, I think her daughter's about 1.5 years now. And so I started following Melissa and found this like whole program, this whole person in Kelowna who could help me like figure out my situation. So I reached out to Melissa at 10 weeks pregnant because I was already having these, I would sneeze and I would pee a little bit, or I'd cough and I'd pee a little bit, or I'd like step off a curb that I wasn't expecting and pee a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is not good. This is like getting even worse. I'm only 10 weeks pregnant. So I reached out and I thought, I'm not going to go through my whole life like my mom, suffering with like having this incontinence, or my aunts, or all these other women who talk about having this issue. And so, that's kind of what made me reach out initially. And I didn't realize, how much other stuff there was, and how much I would learn, and how much I would learn about even just an easier way to give birth. So there's been quite a bit of information packed into it, not just doing Kegels, which she actually told me is not my thing to do. So
this is awesome because, we are so hush hush about these topics because they're quote unquote embarrassing, but you have no idea how common that story is in different forms for so many women. So, I can't thank you enough for sharing those details because, again, like you're right, it's just another muscle that happens to have embarrassing jobs, but there's no reason why we can't work on this. And so yeah, I appreciate that. And I look forward to touching base with you again after baby comes. We were just talking just now before we started recording here about some things that Brianne's been working on to prepare her pelvic floor for an easier delivery. And at the end of the day, I always tell women during pregnancy that the best thing you can do is be aware of the pelvic floor and what it feels like for it not only to be tense and tight, but what it feels like to be open and relaxed, because both of those on either end of the spectrum and everything in between is important for the pelvic floor function. So Brianne's been really working on that during her pregnancy. And we talked today about some other things that she can work on for her labor and delivery. And we'll touch base again after she's had her baby. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but we'll talk after she's had her baby and see what kinds of things were helpful for her and any advice that she has for pregnant moms or postpartum moms. So again, thank you so much, Brianne. And I look forward to hearing your news.
no problem. I'm excited to share.
Okay, take care.